Exposed, heartwarming reunion as Billionaire discovers his twins texting for shelter in the cold. Ethan Lawson sat in his sprawling mansion, surrounded by opulence that felt like a prison. A cold wind rattled the windows, echoing his internal storm. He absent-mindedly scrolled through his phone, the bright screen illuminating his chiseled features, reflecting a face too accustomed to the weight of wealth. Then, a fevered chill ran down his spine. A new message popped up from an unknown number. Desperate. Heart-wrenching. It was from Lily and Grace, his estranged twin daughters, who had just run away from a foster home filled with neglect and abuse. "Dad, we need help. Please, we're scared." The words slammed into him like icy daggers. Guilt washed over him, nearly suffocating. He thought back to their laughter, the innocent giggles echoing through his once cheerful home. Memories of family board games, bedtime stories, and bubble baths flooded his mind, only to be replaced with an empty ache. Here he was, a billionaire, swimming in luxuries beyond imagination, while his daughters sat in the cold, vulnerable and alone. It felt wrong, fundamentally wrong. Outside, the world carried on, blissfully unaware of the pain stirring in Ethan's chest. Cars passed under the street lamps, neighbors settled in for warm family dinner conversations. His riches felt like mockery now. They reminded him of the chasm between his life and theirs, a stark reminder that too often, wealth dances hand in hand with isolation. Just then, Ethan's phone buzzed again, another message from the girls. "We don't have anywhere to go. We just need someone." The weight of their need pressed down on him. They were out there frightened and alone, and he had abandoned them to chase a dream that now felt like a nightmare. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days passed, the twins' plight caught fire, igniting a storm of outrage in the community. Neighbors who once admired Ethan now turned their backs. They were not just angry, they were disappointed in a man they had considered a local hero. Fundraisers sprang up to support the twins, many pouring out their hearts for girls they barely knew. A part of Ethan was proud of the community, yet another part burned with resentment and shame. The weight of blocked calls from Lily and Grace constricted his chest like a vice. What kind of father has he become? With trembling hands, Ethan finally decided to confront his past. He needed to reach his daughters, to find them and bring them home, but how? How do you mend broken connections when the hurt is so deep? The first time they met, it was cold outside, snowflakes gently cascading as they stood face to face. Bitter words, misunderstandings, undiluted pain hung thick in the air, freezing them all like the frosty evening. Ethan could see their hurt, hear their guarded hearts. Each pulse of tension echoed around them. Would they ever forgive him? The silence was unbearable, a coiled spring waiting to snap. He drew in a shaky breath, preparing to speak, yet just then a small sound broke through the frost, leaving them all suspended in uncertainty. What would it take to reclaim his role as a father? The answer hovered in the air, teetering on the edge of hope and despair. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he scanned their expressions. Lily's brow was furrowed in disbelief, while Grace stood slightly behind her, eyes wide with a mix of fear and longing. A whirlwind of emotions surged inside him: love, regret, and a fierce determination to protect. He didn't want to stall any longer. "Please," he finally managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm here now. Just let me help you." Silence hung between them like a thick blanket, stifling yet heavy with possibility. The city lights cast a soft glow around them, and for the first time, Ethan realized that the chill in the air mirrored the distance in their hearts. He took a small step forward, shivering not from the cold but from a stark vulnerability. Lily crossed her arms defensively. "Help. You think just showing up makes everything alright? Each word dripped with the bitterness born from disappointment. No. I know it doesn't. I've made mistakes I can never undo. Ethan's heart pounded against his ribcage. He had to reach them, record their pain, and turn it into something redemptive. But I want to start over from right here. I'm so sorry for everything. Grace shifted uneasily. What if you're lying? Her voice trembled, revealing a core of exhaustion from searching for a father who never came for them. I know I don't deserve your trust, Ethan admitted, his gaze sinking. But I'm ready to prove it. You shouldn't have to be alone out there. Not anymore. A moment of hesitation hung between them, filled with 1,000 unspoken words. Watery eyes met his, and Ethan felt the heat of their anger chill into doubt. They were searching for a glimmer of hope, just as he was. What do you want from us? Lily finally asked. I want you both to come home, he replied, heart racing at the vulnerability of his plea. I'll do anything to make that happen. We can work through this together. Grace stepped forward, placing a hand on her sister's shoulder. It was a simple act, yet it portrayed their bond a fortress amidst their shared scars. It doesn't feel safe at home. How can we trust you won't abandon us again? Ethan swallowed hard, the reality of their fears slicing deep. You can't just take my word for it. I will fight for your trust every single day. The stillness returned, wrapping around them like the cold. Only the distant sounds of the city swept through the air, the honk of a car, laughter from a nearby cafe. The life they had stepped away from felt so far, yet so near. With a deep breath, Lily broke the silence. What if we just tried? Tried staying with you, at least for now. His heart soared, the glint of hope filling the empty spaces. Yes. I'll do everything to make you both feel safe. He couldn't help but smile, the warmth of that tiny spark igniting the darkness. But the hesitation lingered still, as fragile as a newly lit candle. I still have so many questions, Grace mumbled, her voice small yet unwavering. I know, Ethan replied. And I promise we'll talk, share everything that hurt us and everything we can mend together. As their eyes bore into his, he felt the weight of responsibility charging up his spine. They were not just healing his heart, they were challenging him to confront his own truths, his fears of inadequacy. Could he really step up? Could he be the father they needed? Then, just as things seemed to settle, a police siren blared in the distance, sending a jolt through all of them. The urgency of the moment snapped the fragile connection, pulling them back toward uncertainty. What else lies in the shadows? Ethan wanted to offer reassurance, but the questions loomed larger now. Would he really be enough to hold their world together? And as he reached out for them, a chilling thought crept into his mind. What if the battles ahead were far bigger than they could have imagined? The air was thick with unanswered questions, and Ethan realized they were standing on the brink of something monumental. Together, they had a choice to make, a leap of faith. But would they take it or let fear guide them instead? Ethan looked into Lily and Grace's eyes, each holding a mixture of hope and skepticism. It was a battlefield of emotions, and he was standing on uncertain ground. He could almost feel the tension crackling in the air, and it hurt him to see the walls they had built around themselves. Maybe we should find a warmer place to talk. Ethan suggested, trying to break the chilly silence. The buzzing of the city felt alive around them, but they were trapped in their own bubble of doubt. Lily exchanged glances with Grace. Okay, but just for a little while. We're not committing to anything. The words stung, but he nodded, grateful for even a sliver of time with them. That's all I ask for. Let us just talk. They started walking towards a nearby diner, a cozy spot with glowing neon lights promising warmth and comfort. It had been years since he last set foot in a place like this, and the smell of coffee and frying food stirred old memories. He remembered a time when being together felt normal, when family dinners were filled with laughter, not silence. As they entered, Ethan noticed how the waitress's smile dimmed slightly when she recognized him. He hadn't expected to be seen as anything but a father. To them, he was just another lost face entangled in the city's fast-paced life. They settled into a booth at the far end, and Ethan watched the girls sift through the menu, their eyes darting nervously to the door as if uncertain they weren't being followed. He could see their trust still hanging by a thread. "I'll pay. Just order whatever you want," he said, trying to be the father they had imagined. Grace picked up a cup of steaming hot cocoa, the sight of it softening her features just a bit. "Thanks," she mumbled, her cheeks still flushed with confusion. When the waitress took their order, Ethan's own stomach twisted. He had never been one to order comfort food, it felt foreign to him now among the two girls he desperately wanted to know. "Why did you come back?" Lily asked suddenly, her voice stealing as she leaned over the table. "What changed?" "Everything." His answer came out raw, unfiltered. "I was lost, but now I realize I can't keep running. I want to know you both, to be part of your lives, to be your dad. I know what that means, but why should we believe you?" Lily pushed, her eyes narrowing, challenging him. "Because I'll show you. I want to be present, not just a shadow." He reached for their hands, but the instinct to pull away was strong. He felt a pang in his chest, a reminder of how far they had distanced themselves from the love they once shared. When the food arrived, Ethan couldn't help but feel the weight of unspoken words lingering between them. Each bite felt like a hesitant step forward. They were slowly bringing him back into their world, but he knew it would take time. Grace poked at her fries, lost in thought. "And what if we end up getting hurt again? I can't handle that." "I won't let that happen," Ethan promised, his voice steady, filled with a conviction he hoped they could sense. The flickering candles on their table cast shadows over their faces, but he felt warmth flicker inside him. He was determined, but as they sat there, eating in a tense silence, he couldn't shake the feeling of something darker looming over them. The shadows weren't just behind him, they were creeping into their lives, threatening the fragile hope he had ignited. Then, a loud crash echoed from outside the diner, jolting them all. A figure stumbled past the window, their pace frantic. Instincts kicked in, and Ethan's grip tightened around the table's edge, his heart racing. He had to keep them safe. Was the world outside just as unforgiving as the one they were trying to escape? The heaviness of reality fell back on him, and he realized they were faced with more than just rekindling their relationship. "Do you remember the story of the Phoenix?" he asked, trying to lift their spirits even as uncertainty clouded the moment. "What?" Lily queried, confusion mixing with curiosity. "It's about rising from ashes, starting over. I believe that's what we can do. But..." Even as the words left his lips, Ethan felt doubt creeping in. Could they truly rise from the ashes of pain and betrayal? As he looked into Lily and Grace's eyes, he knew this was only the beginning of a long journey. And as the noise outside subsided, an uneasy silence filled the diner, wrapping around their fledgling hopes. What other storms awaited them outside? The moment felt suspended, the diner filled with the aroma of fries and coffee, yet the air lingered heavy with uncertainty. Ethan's heart raced as he searched the eyes of his daughters for a sign, any sign that they believed him. Did they see the truth buried beneath the layers of doubt and fear? Lily broke the moment, her brow knitting together. "If this is all just a game to you, it's not," he spoke quickly, his voice already quaking with vulnerability. "Trust me when I say I've hurt enough people. I won't play with yours." Grace's eyes flickered towards the door again, she couldn't sit still, her fingers tapping nervously against the table. "Why now? What made you come back?" Ethan took a breath, letting the memories of dark nights alone wash over him. "I realized how much I've missed everything. Every moment I spent running was a moment I lost with you." Lily leaned back, crossing her arms tight against herself as if she could shield her heart. "You think we need you now? After all this time?" Before he could answer, the familiar chime of the diner door swung open, and a man stumbled inside. His clothes were disheveled, and his face was pale. A crowd of patrons turned to stare, the ambience shifting from casual to tense. Ethan's instincts kicked in again, his protective nature rising to the surface. The man's eyes darted around the diner until they landed on Ethan. He knew that face, someone from his past, someone he thought he had left behind. Panic surged. Ethan stiffened, tension coiling in his muscles like a spring ready to snap. "Ethan!" The man gasped, breathless. "I need your help, I get out." Ethan interrupted, instinctively rising to his feet. "You don't belong here." Lily and Grace exchanged confused glances as the stranger stepped closer, desperation radiating from him. "I'm in trouble. I thought you could help me. Please." Ethan's fists clenched. He didn't want anyone from his past invading this fragile moment with his daughters. "You shouldn't have come here. You're putting them in danger." "Danger?" Grace's voice sliced through the tension. "What kind of danger? Who is this?" Her question hung in the air, and he could feel the weight of every word as he glanced at her. The innocence in her eyes had him fighting another battle, a battle against his instinct to shield them from everything he had once known. "We can talk later," he said, forcing the words out as if his very life depended on it. "Right now, the man spoke up again, his voice cracking. "I didn't want to scare you, but I had no choice. It's about the company, the debts, the people chasing me company." Lily asked, her curiosity piqued. "What are you talking about?" The frantic energy in the diner shifted, tightening around them like a storm cloud. Ethan's mind raced. There were secrets he didn't want to share, but it was clear now that the past was clawing back, ready to drown them all. "Dad!" Grace's voice was small but firm, snapping him back to the present. "What does he mean?" Before Ethan could muster a response, the door of the diner swung open again, and Ethan felt a palpable chill as two men stepped inside dressed in dark clothing, their eyes scanning the crowd. His heart thudded against his ribcage, a thump of fear mingled with an urgency to protect. Not now, not like this. Ethan thought, panic gripping him. He turned to his daughters, their eyes wide with confusion, fear mingling with uncertainty. "We need to leave," he said, locking eyes with the stranger. "Now." But as he glanced back at the two men, he realized the fight for his family's safety had only just begun, and the question lingered, how could he protect them when his own past was crashing back in? The air in the diner thickened as Ethan's words hung uncomfortably between them. His daughters stared at him, their expressions flickering between anger and fear. "What's happening, Dad?" Lily's voice was sharp, cutting through the tension like a knife. Ethan's mind raced, adrenaline coursing through him. The two men in dark clothing stepped further into the diner, their eyes darting with purpose. They were searching. For him. For the stranger who had just burst into their lives. "Stay close to me," he said, his voice low but firm. He quickly glanced at the man who had brought this chaos into their midst, the man he once thought he could ignore forever. "We're leaving." The stranger shook his head, panic tightening his features. "You can't leave. They'll follow you. You don't understand, I owe them money. Big money. They're not just going to let me walk away. If you leave now, it puts your daughters at risk." "Enough," Ethan snapped, a protective rage igniting in him. He couldn't let this stranger endanger his family. But what he'd just learned about the looming threat turned his insides into a storm. "Why did you come back?" he demanded, stepping closer to the man, lowering his voice to a growl. "Why did you drag us into this? I thought you'd want to help. You're my only chance, Ethan." The plea hung in the air, unspoken history threading between them. But before Ethan could respond, Lily pulled at his sleeve, her voice trembling. "What does he mean, Dad? Why do you know him?" Ethan turned, feeling the weight of her gaze. The mixture of fear and confusion in her eyes made his heart ache. "He's just someone from my past. I don't want you to worry about it." "But we're already worried," Grace said, her voice rising with hurt. "You said you wanted to be part of our lives again. If there is something you're hiding, how can we trust you?" The truth hung heavily over them, pulsing like a heartbeat that connected them all. "Because I'm trying to protect you," he said, frustration spilling over. The two men at the entrance started moving, cutting through the crowd with purpose. Ethan's instincts flared to life, he could no longer hesitate. "Listen." Ethan turned his eyes back to his daughters. "I need you both to trust me. We're going to get out of here, right now, and it will be okay." Suddenly, one of the men shouted, "Ethan! There's nowhere to run." The tone was sharp, authority lacing his words. The diner fell into a collective silence, a moment where fear rippled through the crowd, eyes darting nervously as everyone began to realize the seriousness of the situation. Seeing his daughter's terrified expressions, Ethan's heart broke just a little more. He had wanted to return and rebuild, not to drag them into the mess he had made. "Get to the back. Now!" he shouted, pushing them gently but firmly toward the kitchen exit. As they moved, the stranger remembered something important. "Ethan. They're not just here for me. They know about you, too. You've put them at risk." Ethan's heart dropped. It was a warning he had never expected, adding to an already unbearable weight. They weren't just here for debt, they were here because of him, because his past could destroy the fragile safety of the future he desperately wanted to build. He turned, locking eyes with his daughters, their faces pale with fear. "No matter what happens, I won't let anything happen to you." But just as they reached the kitchen door, the two men were on them, blocking their escape and forcing Ethan to confront the truth of their situation. With each passing second, the walls seemed to close in tighter around them, and the storm was gathering strength, threatening to swallow them whole. "Dad," Grace whispered, and her voice pulled him back to reality. "What are we going to do?" And in that moment of uncertainty, he knew one thing: the fight wasn't over yet, and he had to make a choice that could change everything. Would he run, or would he stand and face his demons? The crunch of glass underfoot echoed as Ethan's heart raced. The two men blocking the kitchen door looked like wolves ready to pounce, and he could already feel the heat of the conflict rising. His daughters pressed against him, fear evident in their wide eyes. He couldn't let them down. "Back away from them," Ethan growled, his voice steadier than he felt. The strength of a father surged within him as he stepped forward, ready to shield his girls from whatever was coming. One of the men, tall with a scar running down his cheek, sneered. "You think you can protect them?" he taunted, taking a step forward. "This is bigger than you. You brought this upon yourself, Ethan. You can't outrun your past forever." Ethan's jaw clenched. He wanted to scream at the man, to let out all the years of regret and anger he had buried deep inside. But he knew that just shouting wouldn't end the threat looming over them. "Girls," he said softly, turning to Lily and Grace, "I need you to listen to me. No matter what happens next, you stay behind me and don't move. Understand?" He met their terrified gazes, trying to impart every ounce of reassurance he had left. Lily nodded, her fear hardened into resolve. Grace, however, looked trapped between faith in her father and fear facing the men. "What if no what ifs?" Ethan interrupted, a bit too fiercely as he felt the walls thickening around them. He needed focus. "We're going to be okay. I promise." In that moment of forced calm, the stranger beside him suddenly lunged forward, trying to create a diversion. "You don't have to do this. I'll pay you. Just let them go." His desperation rang hollow in the tense air, but it bought Ethan a second. "Go!" he shouted, pushing his daughters behind him as he rushed toward the doorway. But the man with the scar quickly blocked his path. Before Ethan could react, the second man dove into the fray, grabbing the stranger by his collar and yanking him back, throwing him against the stainless steel counter with a thud. "Enough," Scar said, exuding confidence. "You're out of options, Ethan. Come with us, and we can make this easy, or fight and make it a lot harder." The threat hung heavy, but Ethan wouldn't let fear drive him. "I'll never leave my daughters," he shouted, the truth burning in his belly. Then we'll start with them. That sentence dripped with malice and Ethan's heart dropped. His instincts kicked in, fueled by raw desperation. He stepped sideways, his eyes darting around for anything he could use. A fire extinguisher, a frying pan, anything that could break this mirror maze of danger. But there was nothing. Ethan felt the rush of adrenaline spike. The world around him disappeared, his mind focusing sharply on the threat in front of him. "Get out of here!" he roared, pushing Grace and Lily towards the kitchen's back doorway. Just as they lunged for cover into the utility room, a loud crash echoed. The door to the diner swung open, and in an instant, more figures poured inside, catching Ethan off guard. His breath hitched as he recognized one. It was someone from his past, someone who had promised to help him long ago. But now, standing with his allies, he had no idea if they were friend or foe. Time slowed, and around him chaos erupted. Screams filled the diner, mingling with shouts of confusion. He scrambled, his heart pounding loudly in his chest, and focused on his daughters, who had frozen in place caught in the sudden whirlwind. "Ethan!" The familiar voice called, but he couldn't register who it was or what it meant. All he could think was to keep moving, keep protecting. "What are we waiting for?" shouted the stranger. "We can't stay here." In the midst of all this chaos, Ethan made the hardest choice of his life. He had to decide to stay and attempt to protect his daughters or let fear guide him out of the diner door, potentially abandoning everything he had fought to gain. That he glanced at the doorway, an unbearable weight pushing down on him. Would he step into his past, or fight for the future he desperately wanted for his family? "Let us go!" he yelled, taking charge of the decision. As fear propelled him and his daughters toward the unknown, the closest doorway to freedom, now their only option. As they escaped into a world that seemed just as dangerous, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. What had he unleashed, and how far would he have to run to truly be safe? Ethan stumbled into the alley behind the diner, pulling Lily and Grace close. The cool night air hit his face, a sharp contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. The sounds of shouts and crashing glass faded, but the tension in his chest tightened. "What now?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Grace, still clutching her sister's hand, looked up at Ethan with wide eyes, searching for answers he didn't have. He crouched down to their level, taking a deep breath. "We keep moving. We have to find a safe place." His mind raced. Where could he go? His old apartment was too risky, he couldn't put them in a familiar location. He heard footsteps behind them, heavy, relentless. Panic surged in his veins. He stood, scanning the darkened streets. A flickering streetlight cast an eerie glow, illuminating the alleys that branched off like veins in a leaf. Any direction they could go felt like a gamble. "Dad!" Grace's voice broke through his fog of anxiety. "What about the car?" Ethan's heart sank. The car was still parked in front of the diner. It might be their only way out, but retrieving it also risked exposure. "Can you run?" Ethan asked, gauging his daughter's determination. He hoped desperation would fuel them. "I'll lead the way. Stay right behind me." With a nod from Lily and a hesitant affirmation from Grace, they took off down the alley, adrenaline propelling them forward. Ethan led the girls back toward the street side of the diner, glancing over his shoulder. Each corner they turned felt like a step deeper into a thriller, where the stakes were their very safety. As they neared the front, the sound of distant sirens filled the air, joining the chorus of chaos that lurked just out of sight. Ethan's heart raced. They had to be quick, but as they crept towards the car, he caught a glimpse of the two men still in the diner, looking frantically around, clearly searching for them. "Get close to the building," he hissed, ushering the girls back against the brick wall. Their breaths came quick and shallow. Every second felt elongated. The flickering streetlight did nothing to ease the darkness surrounding them. He could feel the shake in Grace's hand as he held it tight. "We're gonna be okay. Just trust me." "Dad, they're coming," Lily murmured, her eyes locked on the diner's door, where the men had just emerged, scanning the area. One stepped forward, pointing and shouting. Ethan's stomach dropped. "Go!" he commanded, almost instinctively, as they bolted for the car. The sound of shattering glass erupted from behind them, making his heart skip. No time to look back, they reached the vehicle and Ethan fumbled with the keys, sweat trickling down his brow. "Unlock!" he shouted, as Grace climbed into the back seat, her hands trembling. Lily squeezed in next to her. Ethan jumped into the driver's seat, just as he caught sight of one of the men sprinting towards them. He shoved the key into the ignition and twisted. The engine roared to life, resonating through the chaos. "Hold on!" he yelled, slamming the gas pedal down. The car lurched forward, tires screeching as they tore away. The weight of what had just happened bore down on him. Were they safe? Had he made the right choice? Compression around his chest tightened as he glanced in the rearview mirror, seeing the diner grow smaller. "We'll find somewhere safe," he promised, more to himself than to the girls. But deep inside, a question lingered like smoke. What awaited him in the shadows of his past? As they drove into the night, the unknown stretched ahead of them. The fear for his daughters and what was coming next loomed over him, a dark cloud that wouldn't dissipate easily. "Dad," Grace murmured from the back, her voice steady. "Will we see Mom again?" Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him. No words would soften that blow, and a silence hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. He didn't know how to respond, how to reassure them when he was as lost as they were. But one thing was certain, he would do anything to protect them from the monsters that had just begun to awaken. And as he navigated the winding streets, a thought struck him. What if there was more to this than just danger? What if it tied into the heart of who they all were, the flicker of hope intermingled with dread as he drove further into the unknown? What had he really hidden from them? Would uncovering it only bring more pain, or would it lead to healing? Ethan's heart raced with every question, forcing him to confront what he had long avoided. And as he turned the corner into a deserted road, a faint figure appeared in the distance. Could it be another threat? Or perhaps someone from a time before, a connection to the past he had tried so hard to escape? He gripped the wheel tighter, uncertainty washing over him like cold water. What if this time, it changed everything? Ethan's grip tightened on the steering wheel as they approached the figure on the empty road. Heart pounding, he squinted through the windshield, trying to make sense of the shadowy form. The adrenaline still coursing through him made his hands shake. "Who is that?" Lily asked, her wide eyes reflecting the glimmering streetlights as they passed. "I don't know," Ethan replied, straining to see. "Stay down, just in case." The figure stepped closer, and a rush of anxiety clawed at him. Was it a friendly face, or a stranger with ill intentions? As they drew nearer, Ethan's breath caught in his throat. It was a woman, her figure illuminated by the car's headlights. Long hair cascaded over her shoulders, and she held something small and reflective in her hand. "Dad, who is she?" Lily's anxiety was palpable, her voice thin with worry. "I'm not sure," but just then, the woman raised her arm and waved. For a fleeting second, something flickered in Ethan's memory. No. It couldn't be. Curiosity seeped away the fear gripping his heart as he pulled the car to a slow stop. The stranger took a tentative step closer, her features becoming clearer through the swirling darkness. Then it hit him, like a bolt from the blue. "Is that?" "No way." "Dad?" Grace asked, peeking forward, her little voice mingling with the confusion as the woman approached the car. "Get ready," he said, barely able to contain the mix of emotions spiraling within him. The woman slowly leaned toward the window, eyes wide with recognition. "Ethan?" she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. He felt the world around him shift. Every fiber in his being tugged at the memory of her, the warmth, the laughter that had once filled their home. It felt like a mirage, something lost in a tangled haze of time and distance. The woman he once loved. Maria. The name slipped from his lips, raw and cracked like broken glass. Ethan's heart raced as uncertainty and hope collided. What was she doing here? After all these years, he had thought of her often, but never imagined they'd meet under such dire circumstances. What happened? Maria's eyes flicked from Ethan to the girls, her tone reflecting disbelief and concern. You look different. Yeah, you could say that, Ethan replied, his voice thick with emotions he hadn't anticipated feeling. Things have changed. Lily tugged on his sleeve, her curious eyes darting between them. Dad, is she Mom? Ethan's heart dropped, and he shot a glance at Maria. Maria hesitated, taking a breath, her calm demeanor fighting against the myriad of emotions rushing through her. No, sweetie. I'm not your mom. Your mom, well, let us just say, things got complicated. This moment was far from the reunion he had darkly daydreamed about. The girls deserved to know, but the heartache was almost too heavy to bear. Listen, we were just, he began to explain, but the sirens in the distance pulled at his focus. Ethan, you need to go. It's not safe here. She glanced down the road, listening to the rumbles of chaos closing in. But we can't leave without explaining everything, he started, the urgency of the moment clashing with the deep-rooted desire to connect. Maria shook her head. You have to protect them. Get to safety first, and then we can talk. Ethan looked at his daughters, fear etched across their faces. He realized she was right. He needed to prioritize their safety. Can you help us? I can lead you to a place, she said, glancing towards the sound of sirens that was growing louder. But time is running out. Ethan's breath caught in his throat, hope unfurling amid the fear that cocooned them. A burning question flickered in his mind: would this chance encounter change everything for them, or plunge them deeper into a mess of unresolved chaos? As Maria turned to lead the way, Ethan glanced back at his girls, wondering if the path ahead would finally bring them answers or if the past would catch up with them all too soon. Dad, Grace's small voice broke his thoughts. Are we gonna be okay? With a deep breath, he nodded, though uncertainty clung to him like a shadow. They had to trust each other now, but would it be enough in the tangled web of their past? And as they followed Maria down the deserted road, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that uncovering their long-buried history was just the beginning of an even greater storm. The night air was thick with tension as they fell into step behind Maria. Ethan felt a whirl of emotions, a mix of fear, hope, and a yearning for answers. He grabbed his daughter's hands tighter, drawing strength from their small, warm grips. Their soft breaths hung in the air, and he wished he could reassure them with more than just a nod. As they walked, the sound of sirens grew closer, a harsh reminder of how fast everything was unraveling. Lights danced in the distance, piercing through the dark like arrows. What if they find us? Lily whispered, shifting closer to him. Ethan's mind raced. We won't let them, he whispered back fiercely, though doubt gnawed at him. Maria glanced back, her expression a blend of worry and urgency. We have to move faster, she urged, picking up her pace. There's a shelter about half a mile down this road, but it's hit or miss. We need to be careful. Shelter? Grace asked, her innocent excitement shining through her fearful facade. Yes, sweetie, Ethan replied, squeezing her hand. It'll be safe there. Just hold on tight. They trudged forward, the ground crunching underfoot. Ethan's thoughts swirled around Maria and the kids, like debris caught in a storm. What had happened to bring Maria back into their lives? Why now? And what did she mean when she said things had gotten complicated? The memories flooded back, laughing in the kitchen, afternoons in the park, and sleepy giggles at bedtime. But they felt like shadows now, a different time that felt so far away. He had buried those moments deep until they surfaced again with this chance encounter. Suddenly, Maria stopped short. Up ahead, she said, pointing to a small building that loomed out of the darkness. Light spilled from the windows like warm embrace waiting to welcome them. Ethan's heart leapt. Is that it? Yes, just stay close, she urged, glancing once more at the road behind them. They charged toward the glow like moths to a flame. As they approached, an uneasy sense of hope washed over him. Would they find the sanctuary they desperately needed? He wanted to believe that the worst was behind them. Is it really safe? Lily's voice quivered, doubt lingering in her eyes. Trust me, Maria said gently, her gaze softening. It's a good place. I promise. Ethan felt his heart tug again as he realized how much power Maria's words had. It was strange after all these years. The trust was still there, fragile but unmistakably present. When they reached the door, Maria knocked quickly. A moment later, it swung open, revealing a woman in her 50s with kind eyes that sparkled even in the dim light. Maria? Thank God you're here. She exclaimed, her voice warm with relief. Can you help us? Maria asked, urgency overtaking her. Ethan held his breath, anxiety clawing at him again. He felt like he was losing control, and the girls they deserved better than this chaotic mess, the woman nodded, waving them in. Of course. Come inside, quickly. As they stepped over the threshold, relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. We'll be safe here, right? He asked Maria, feeling the weight of the world still tethered to his shoulders. Maria's expression didn't hold the reassurance he craved. For now, yes. But we need to talk soon. Ethan's heart sank. He didn't want to face the truth. Not now, maybe not ever. But he could feel it coming, like thunder rumbling only moments before a storm breaks. Dad? Grace's tiny voice broke through. What does she mean? Ethan turned to her, his stomach twisting, knowing the answers would change everything. But before he could finish, the building shook as a deafening crash echoed outside. His fear surged, a tidal wave. Stay close. He shouted, grabbing the girls as the lights flickered. What now? He had brought them to safety, wasn't that enough? As he saw Maria's eyes widen with alarm, he knew they were far from finished. And deep in his gut, he sensed an impending storm brewing, one that might tear them apart once more. Maria's voice barely rose over the chaos. We need to find a way out. His heart raced. What was waiting for them on the other side? Just as they braced for whatever was coming, the door slammed open again, and a figure stood silhouetted against the streetlights, shouting their names. Had they just exchanged one danger for another? The figure stepped into the building, and Ethan's heart dropped as recognition struck him. It was Tom, an old friend from his past, the one who had promised to help him when his world began to crumble. Relief mingled with apprehension as Tom's eyes searched through the room, finally landing on Ethan. Ethan! You have to come with me, now. Tom's frantic voice chilled him to the core. They're not far behind. Lily and Grace cowered a little, sensing the urgency in the air. What do you mean? Ethan demanded, protective instincts kicking into overdrive. Just trust me. Tom stepped closer. I know where we can go, but we're running out of time. They're looking for you. A slam echoed from the street outside, and Ethan's stomach twisted. Who is looking for us? Tom hesitated, eyes darting to the door. Those two men from the diner, like I said, they've been tracking you. He turned sharply toward Maria. We should never drag them into this. We don't have much time. Ethan's chest constricted. No. Not the girls. He'd lost so much already. The thought of danger lurking any closer sent a cold wave of fear crashing over him. It's not safe here. Tom reiterated, the urgency in his tone igniting Ethan's resolve. Okay, he said, gripping Lily's hand tightly. We'll follow you, but you have to promise me they're not going to get hurt. I promise, Tom said, a flicker of something deeper in his eyes. Just keep moving, and don't look back. Together, they followed Tom out the back door with Maria leading the girls. The dim glow of the streetlights illuminated their path as they hurried into the embrace of night, the cold air biting against their skin. A cacophony of noises echoed behind them, footsteps racing against the pavement, muffled voices blending into a chorus of chaos. They turned down a side street, the shadows wrapping around them like an anxious cloak. "We need to stay low," Tom whispered, moving quickly but cautiously, his determined pace steadying Ethan's racing heart. Every turn brought fresh anxiety, and Ethan kept glancing behind. They all felt it, a presence that lurked just beyond reach, the threat inching closer with every heartbeat. "Dad?" Grace's voice broke through the thick tension, and Ethan turned to see fear etched on her face. "Are we going to be okay?" "Of course," he assured her, kneeling so that he was at her level. "We're together, and we'll get through this. I promise I won't let anything happen to you." Lily squeezed Grace's hand, their bond holding firm against the storm. "We have each other," Lily said quietly, her voice steadying. They reached a nondescript building at the end of the block, its windows dark. Tom pulled them through a grimy door, and they entered a narrow hallway. "This way," he urged, his grip firm on Ethan's shoulder as they rushed further inside. The silence was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos of moments before. Tom ushered them down another hallway where a heavy door stood slightly ajar. "We'll hide in here." They slipped inside, and Ethan shut the door, wincing at how loud it felt in the stillness. The room was small and sparsely decorated, furniture covered with dust, lots of shadows. But it wouldn't matter, for now, this was their refuge. "Please, let this be safe," Ethan whispered, his chest rising and falling rapidly. "Just for a bit," Tom said, pulling everyone close. "We'll keep an eye on the street." "I didn't mean to pull you back into this, Ethan. I thought you were clear." Outside, frantic footsteps echoed. Ethan's heart sank again, the pounding sound echoing his inner turmoil. "What if they find us?" Grace asked, leaning into Lily's side, her small figure trembling. "Then we'll fight back," Ethan declared, the determination in his voice rising. "No one is going to take you from me again." Suddenly, the sounds outside grew louder, a burst of voices rising in alarm. "Ethan! We know you're in there!" One of the men from the diner shouted, and Ethan pressed his lips together, straining to hear. "Let us go," Tom urged. "They might not be looking for you in here, we can slip out the back and crypt." By panic, a thought crossed Ethan's mind. Was it worth risking everything? He couldn't put his daughters in harm's way. But the noise outside was building, moving closer. Then a ray of hope flickered within him. "Wait, Maria, what are we really dealing with? How do you know all this?" "It's complicated," Maria replied softly, glancing nervously at the door. "But I do know they will stop at nothing to get to you, Ethan. You're not just a target, you're a key to something bigger." "What do you mean?" Lily chimed in, her big eyes shifting from Maria to Ethan. "It's about the company and the debts, what I tried to shield you all from." Ethan could feel the weight of truth crashing down on him like a wave. It was too much, but the beginning of understanding wrapped around him as a thin light. "Every decision I made to protect you kept you from finding out what really happened." "Dad," Grace began, her gaze serious. "What if knowing is what will set us free?" Tears threatened to blur his vision as Ethan's heart twisted with gratitude and love. They were stronger than he had realized, they deserved the truth. "Okay," he said, his voice coming out as a whisper of conviction. "I'll tell you everything. But we have to focus on getting out of here first." The door rattled, and an ominous voice echoed through the hallway, slicing through the silence. "We know you're in there, Ethan. It's time to give up." Everything had led to this moment, a moment where the walls of the past threatened to close in, but he wouldn't let them. "We're more than what they think, girls," he said, letting courage push through the fear, ready to face whatever lay ahead. "Pushing back the past together. On three, we make a break for it," Tom said quietly, glancing around as the tension twisted tighter. "Just for now," Ethan whispered, as his heart surged with hope. We keep moving forward. Together. And as the door rattled once more, he gathered his girls close, their hands entwined in defiance of the impending storm. Whatever challenges stood before them now, it didn't matter. Together, they would rise. Together, they would fight. Time to step back into the world and reclaim the future they deserved.